I'll take Gimel. Hold on. We're beginning in a moment. And we're excited to welcome Yehuda to our Bima. We'll begin with the Shalom Aleichem on page number 5. Shalom Aleichem is a reminder that our words offered between one and the next are essential. Our words have the power to set a tone for peace. May we use all of our words to bring peace into the world. Shalom Aleichem, found on page number 5.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Olachem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seidchem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We're reminded every week on Shabbat, the evening of Shabbat, that Adam and Chava were created on this day just hours before sundown. And the way that they were created was that God shared a little bit of God's own breath with each one of them in a unique manner. And ever since, all the way down through time, every human being has received and inhabits within himself or herself a little bit of God's own breath. Which means that every time you and I inhale and exhale, we have a little bit of God's vitality flowing through us. And every time you and I share a word, that word goes out and is carried aloft on the currents within a room by God's own breath. How could we not but use our words and our breath constructively and beautifully? And that may be a way of understanding Yedi Nefesh, this poem, on page number 10, the first stanza, Yedi Nefesh, page number 10, a poem that, in one way, touches on what it means to have the soul of God, the breath, within each and every one of us all the days of our lives. Yedi Nefesh, page number 10.
Yedi Nefesh al-Rahman, Yedi Nefesh al-Rahman, Meshach al-Decha, El Ratzonecha, Meshach al-Decha, Ya-da-da-da-da, El Ratzonecha. Yedi Nefesh al-Rahman, Yedi Nefesh al-Rahman, Meshach al-Decha, El Ratzonecha Meshochadecha Yadadadada El Ratzonecha Yarutz Avdecha Kemo Ayam Ishtacha Veyadada Yadadadada El Muladarecha Yedid Nefesh Rachman Yedid Nefesh Rachman Meshochadecha El Ratzonecha Meshochadecha Yadadadada El Ratzonecha.
And on page 11, L'chuna Ranana from the Psalms, literally meaning, come on, it's time for us to sing together. And after L'chuna Ranana, because we're going into the psalmic section of the service, we'll be adding in a moment Shema Hashem and then Shiru. For now, L'chuna Ranana on page number 11.
I'm going to try this a different way. Yeah, that's pretty good. Ranina, la 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 la, Ranina. Ria, let's Yishenu. Got my phone up, it's so dark. Ria, let's Yishenu. Bismiruna Riala Funeranina la 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 Funeranina Ria let's Yishenu. It caught my phone off, it's so dark. Ria, let's Yishenu. Miss Miruna Riala. Neranina, Neranina, la 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 la. Neranina, Neranina, Neranina.
On page 11, 3 English stanzas prior to Shema Hashem. On page 11, let us go and sing to Adonai. Let us trumpet praise to our protector. Filled with thanks, let us greet God, raising our voice in song. Great is Adonai, a greater sovereign than all other deities. God's hands form the earth's deep. Mountain crests too are God's work. The sea is God's, for God made it. Dry land was fashioned by God's hands. Come then, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai, who formed us. And the next piece is Shema Hashem. This is a piece that Yehuda composed himself. It comes from the book of Psalms. And you know the first words, Shema Adonai, but it comes from another section of the Bible, from the Psalms. Shema Adonai v'chaneni. Hear me, God, and be gracious unto me. I need you to hear me. I need you to turn to me. And Yehuda composed this melody himself.
Shema Adonai, Kol Yecha Lechoneni, Beyanini. Lord, hear gracious to me and answer me. Shema Adonai kol yecha v'choneini v'yanini. My heart longs to know, and you I seek. Hide not yourself from me, nor turn away from me. Shema Adonai kol yecha v'choneini v'yanini.
We have two song sheets. On the small song sheet, which begins with Shir Ladonai, Shir Chadash, the transliteration, a bit of Hebrew, a bit of English. And again, this is an original composition by Yehuda.
See if I can still do this. Wrong key. Okay, so I'll give you a little music lesson. Harmonicas they only play in one key. So that means if you mess up down here, your harmonica's off. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Koharet, Shiru Ladonai, Bachu Shemo, Mazeru Miyom, Yom Yeshua Tov. Sing to God a new song. Sing to God all the land. Sing to God, praise His name, and tell of His saving hand. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Koharet, Shiru Ladonai, Bachu Shemo, Mazeru Miyom, Yom Yeshua Tov. Sing to God a new song. Sing to God all the land. Sing to God, praise His name, and tell of His saving hand. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai, Koharet.
Right. And now on the large song sheet, the Ma Tovu, which is a statement of perspective. Jews are an opinionated lot, and our texts are opinionated as well. And this Ma Tovu sets a tone, which is why it starts every single Siddur constructed at least the past 1,000 years and prior. And the testimony is that it's beautiful having Jewish people together. Ma tovu alech Yaakov. How beautiful it is that all of your tents, your homes, are in one way or another connected to a greater whole. Ma tovu.
Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanatecha Yisrael, Matzovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanatecha Yisrael, Vani berovastecha, Avovetecha, Shtachavei Elochochcha, Yiratecha, Matzovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanatecha Yisrael, Matzovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanatecha Yisrael.
And we've already been following the directions of the next song, Romamu, and the song sheet, Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, literally lift up your voices. We've been doing so. V'hishtachavu l'harkacho, and come together and worship at God's own mountain. And we can say that because we're together here, and those are joining in online as well, we're transforming this space into a mountain. And it's a peak, and we're now at the top of the peak and coming this close to God. Romamu.
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'shtachavu le'arkocho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'shtachavu le'arkocho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'shtachavu le'arkocho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'shtachavu le'arkocho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'shtachavu le'arkocho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'shtachavu le'arkocho.
On page 23, the first two stanzas, page 25, the last two stanzas, greeting Shabbat herself. She is pictured as a queen. Page 23 and 25, the opening two and concluding two stanzas.
Lechandoti likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lechandoti likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Shavor v'zakor v'dibur echad, ishmi'anu elam yuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad, l'shimoti v'ret v'litilah. Adoti likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Adoti likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. לקראת שבת לכוונך, מקור הברכה, ראש מקדם נשואה, סוף מעשה בשבת תפילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Aminus mol ikronsi, et Adonai taritzi, al yadish ben partsi, ben ismahavan nagila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Shabbat nekabela. Ohui v'shalom ma'atzeret bala, gam b'simcha u'votzela, toch emunei am segula, bo'ichala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, Shabbat nekabela.
Remaining standing, turning to page 28, the conclusion of the Psalm for Shabbat herself. In a moment, the last two stanzas on the English side of page 28, but just a reminder, there's a word that is a gift from Jewish tradition to our mindset and to the world. The word is tzaddik, which means a righteous person. We need to remind the world, beginning with ourselves and interactions between one and the next, of the capacity for bringing righteousness into the world every single day. And Shabbat herself is an anniversary of the creation of the universe, which tells us that bringing righteousness into the world completes the creation of the world. Your and my behavior completes the creation of the universe. And I'll look at those last two stanzas on the English side. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai. They flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming Adonai is upright, my rock. O diru b'sebo, t'sheni v'ananiyu, lagi kisharnoi, suri bla bla tabo. Remaining standing in the Borchu, page 39b. Baruch et Adonai hamavorach. Baruch hamavorach elam v'ed. As we recited the first bracha on the English side aloud. Baruch Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space. You completed your work of creation on the seventh day, calling this day from one evening to the next the holy Shabbat, and gave this day of rest in all its holiness to your people Israel, creator of day and night, rolling light before darkness and darkness from light, making day pass and bringing on the evening, distinguishing day from night. Adonai Tzvaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. El chai v'kayom, tamidim lo chalen olam v'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'arif aravim. Turning to the large song sheet halfway down, using English wording, Ahavas Olam. This is a modern take on the gist of the second bracha of the evening service, which is God's love fills the universe. God's love is eternal and infinite.
Ahavas Chesed, Beit Yisrael, Ahavta. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you. The song of the trees when winter soothes. The song of the earth when rain soothes thirst. The song of the sea when the waves are subdued. The song of the sky when hummingbirds fly. Ahavas Chesed, Beit Yisrael, Ahavta. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you. The song of the trees when winter soothes. The song of the earth when rain soothes thirst. The song of the sea when the waves are subdued. The song of the sky when hummingbirds fly. Ahavas Chesed, Beit Yisrael, Ahavta. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you.
V'avatecha tesir mimeno olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema is on page 41.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha yom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam bam b'shivtecha b'techa u'b'lechecha v'derech u'b'shafecha u'b'kumecha u'kshartam le'yot al yadecha Ve'hayu letotafot beinenecha u'tavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha.
A few moments of silence, or perhaps considering page number 42. Adonai Elohim. On page 44, another composition by Yehuda, Mi Chamocha. Well, I should say this. The words are not Yehuda's. The words belong to someone else, but they've been handed down and shared for 3,300 years. The words belong to all of us, but the melody comes from Yehuda, from his heart, lifting up all of our spirits. Page 44.
kamocha li Adonai, kamocha nero kodesh, norata iloto sefer, norata iloto sefer. Lifnei Moshe, Seli Yanu, Adonai Yilon Levayin,
ונאמר כי פדרנו את יעקב וגלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל Yisrael. And as you see here, the translation on the facing page, the last line of 44, reminds us that in the ancient days, God redeemed the nation of Israel. We got out of Egypt, we crossed the sea, and we looked back, and there was no longer a threat. Not only the threat of the slave master's whip, but even the hint of a pursuing army. No threats. We thought we were safe. And then the next day we realized there's a whole new future ahead of us. And who can anticipate what might occur in the future? Which is why I think the Siddur develops in a highly different direction. And that's the Hashkidenu here. And it's on page 45. And just one short stanza of the English side before we sing on the bottom of the large song sheet, reminding us that the Michamocha speaks of the past, a shared experience of safety. Hashkidenu speaks of the night to night. Every one of us is in league with his or her neighbor, his or her Jewish neighbor, looking at the entire world, calling forth for a prayer for peace for all of us here and everywhere. The last stanza on the English side, the little red arrow prior to the song sheet. Ensure going and coming for life and peace now and forever. May you spread over us your canopy of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all the people of Israel, over the world, and over Jerusalem. Hashkidenu.
Hashkidenu Adonai, Eloheinu lech shalom, Hamidenu Malkeinu lechayim. Hashkidenu Adonai, Eloheinu lech shalom, Hamidenu Malkeinu lechayim. Ufros Aleinu, Sukat Shlomecha, Echad Shalom, Me'ata ve'ad olam. Sometimes I lay under the moon, and I thank God I'm breathing. Then I pray, don't take me soon, 'cause I am here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. While when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around. And all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There be no more wars, our children will play. One day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. It's not about win or lose, 'cause we all lose when they beat on the souls of the innocent, blood-drenched pavement. Keep on moving though the water stayed raging. In this phase you can lose your way, your way. It might drive you crazy, but don't let it phase you, no way, no way. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. While when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around. And all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't wanna fight no more. Maybe no more wars, our children will play one day, one day, one day. One day, one day, one day. Hashivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, Amidenu Malkeinu leChayim. Hashivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, Amidenu Malkeinu leChayim.
Vishamru, the top of page number 46, Vishamru, B'nai Israel, Vishamru.
Vishamru b'nai Yisrael et Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. ובני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבו וברכו יפון ויום אחד וחיי לכל בית ישראל בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב הנה אמן. יהי שמי רבו מבורך עולם יומי יומיה יתברך וישתבח יתברך ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה ברכו לעילם וברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה תאמירן לעולם. memorize the Silent Amida, pages 47 through 52, or an opportunity to offer a personal and silent prayer of our own devising in silence the Amida. On page number 51, you see the stanza in Hebrew, Shalom Rav, in English, the seventh bracha, prayer for peace. And you know that every Shabbat Amida ends with a bracha for peace. Every Amida throughout the entire year, although there's a different number of blessings, ends with a bracha, a blessing over God for halavai, let there be peace in the world. That's how we conclude our most cherished of all seekings for closeness with God, which is what the Amida is. It's a private prayer, but at the conclusion, we're always thinking about the entire world for peace. And Yehuda shares with us a melody, Shalom Rav, the transliteration, the little red ink, also found on page number 51.
Shalom Ra Yisrael Amha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Ra Yisrael Amha Tasim Le'olam. Ki Ata Hu Melech Hador Lecho HaShalom. Ki Ata Hu Melech Hador Lecho HaShalom. Shalom Ra Yisrael Amha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Ra Yisrael Amha Tasim Le'olam. Le'zov enecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael וכל עצו בחושה בשלומך. שלום רע לא ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רע לא ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם.
Page 54. Yitkara vikara shmeraba primaru amen. Yahei shmeraba mavara lolam yome omayo. Yitbarach yishtabach mesrep shmei kedusha brich shmerru amen. Yikabel shmerru amen. Yishmerru amen. Shalom Aviyas Shalom. L'simero. Amen. Shalom.
Say shalom b'mirma, uyase shalom leinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'himeru amen, himeru amen. Oh, say shalom b'mirma, uyase shalom leinu ve'al kol Yisrael, himeru amen, himeru amen. May the one who makes all peace make peace in our world. May the maker of our love give us hearts that care. Oh, say shalom, shalom b'mroma. Oh, yash say shalom, aleinu ve'al kol yoshvei tzaveh. Oh, say shalom b'mirma, uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, himeru amen, himeru amen.
Yishakol, Yehuda Shkoyach. Thank you. Every so often, you and I receive in the mail invitations to accumulate 50,000 new points or 100,000 miles. It's tempting. All we need to do is open a new credit card account. Or it might be, the teaser is a free weekend getaway. Just sign up for, might be, a timeshare or some other deal. And you and I know that we're talking about a contract. Read the fine print. I'm old enough, and therefore others in this room old enough to remember the old days when you could open a bank account and receive a toaster or a coffee maker. Remember those days? Another contract. Read the fine print. Now we all know that if we don't fulfill the terms of the contract, there is loss. We even say damages. And the word damages, as we all know, is a connotation of monetary damages. We want to avoid loss and damage and damages. And these elements are at the core of many of our shared life experiences. Avoid loss, avoid damage, make sure we avoid the damages. I have a new idea. And I want us to instead fantasize about a different type of contract. Not a contract in economic or financial terms, legal terms, but instead a contract of, let's call it a contract of shalom. What would it be like if you and I could conceive of an experience where we are bound to a contract of shalom between each and every one of us and the members of our family, the members of other families, the members of our neighborhoods whom we used to know, we called them neighbors, but now we barely know them any longer. And all of us were parties to a contract of shalom. And if, God forbid, we violated the terms, there would be a sense of loss and a sense of damages, not in economic terms, but think about the loss that would emerge if you and I violated the terms of a brit of shalom. And this is on my mind because of something that's happening tomorrow. And you should ask, how do I know what's happening tomorrow? And I'll tell you because it's in the Torah reading. And it happened 3,300 years ago, but it's happening tomorrow. And unfortunately, we're still reeling from the loss of Miriam and Aaron. Moses is alive and well, but Miriam and Aaron, who led us along with Moses for 40 years, have died. And there must be a sense of a ripple of being off kilter for the people of Israel. And a tribal leader named Zimri from the tribe of Shimon does something inappropriate. He takes hold, let's say, a foreign woman, and they come into a tent over there near the tabernacle, and they're behaving inappropriately. He's a tribal leader. And a man named Pinchas, whom we should know because Pinchas is the grandson of Aaron. And I think he's still reeling, perhaps, from the loss of his grandpa and his great-aunt Miriam. Takes hold of a spear, and now the scandal is no longer an issue for the people of Israel. I'll leave it at that. Pinchas took care of things. A spear, no longer an issue. And bizarrely, God communicates to Moses and says, Pinchas is now going to be the heir, the inheritor of my brit of shalom. And we all know what the word brit means. A covenant, a sacred contract. And everybody knows what the word shalom. Pinchas has just brought a sword, a spear, into an experience, and he's going to be rewarded by being the inheritor and the conduit into the future thousands of years, uncountable. The brit of shalom will be flowing through his fingertips and his genes on forever and ever. And I ask, how on earth can it be that a man who brings a spear into an experience is going to be the heir and the transmitter of brit shalom? In the ancient days, it would have been that if a man honored God by removing idolatry and blasphemy, he could be receiving accolades, and that's what this is, an accolade. But already, only 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years after the events in the Torah, our ancestors are very uncomfortable with the accolade given to this man, Pinchas, that he is the heir of the Brit of Shalom. And coming 2,000 years later down to our own time, I look at this in tomorrow's Torah reading, and I ask, how on earth can a man who brought a spear be called the ancestor of a Brit of Shalom? And I answer my own question by saying the following. I don't think it's meant as an accolade. I'm reinterpreting the Torah in my own experience through my own eyes. I'm convinced it's not an accolade. It's not a praise. In fact, it's this side of a castigation. It's a responsibility, it's a burden, and it's almost a rebuke. And God is saying, Pinchas, you want to be a Kohen? You want to be essential to the transmittal of what we call worship and awareness of ethic and monotheism and justice on for the next 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 years through your lineage? Then you've got to live a life of shalom. You've got to transmit a sense of covenantal responsibility to bring shalom into every single aspect of your daily life. You have to model that for your own children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren for the next 150 generations, and then renew the contract again for another 150 generations. That's what it means, in my opinion, to say, Brit Shalom. It's not an accolade. It's almost saying, Pinchas, you went too far. You're not allowed. If you're going to be a Kohen, if you're going to be the ancestor of the Kohanim and Leviim, to bring a spear, you have to model the obligation of looking at people, recognizing that they are different, recognizing that you and we are not always going to agree, and come to some higher level of conduct, of behavior. Otherwise, you're not entitled to be a Kohen. You're not entitled to be the essential link in the next 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 years, whereby other Kohanim and Leviim will come forth from you, because you have an inspired shalom. And that's why I say, what would it be like if you and I could reconfigure our entire daily experiences with a new umbrella of viewing damages and loss in an entirely different way, not economic, not legal, but human. You and I are the descendants of this man, Pinchas. And every single year, Jews the world over are going to open the Torah, or open the Chumash, and read this week's Parsha, and remember what he did and how he acted. And every year, we're going to be challenged to do much better. You and I are equipped to bring Brit Shalom into this world, to be, you might say, emissaries for a whole new understanding, because we hold our ancestors up very carefully to a lens of evaluation and scrutiny. May we reconstruct what it means to be members of a society by bringing Brit Shalom, a sacred covenant of peace, into every single day. And we say Amen. We rise now the Aleinu. Page number 56. Aleinu leshabeach laton hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanek goyei aratzot, velo samanu kimishpachot adaman, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים המשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא
שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוצר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום לשבת אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו echad. In a moment, the Mourner's Kaddish on page number 58. Page 58. The Mourner's Kaddish on page number 58. And on this Shabbat we remember with great love Max Goldrich, Harry Bernstein, Hyman Berger, Dr. Murray Muchnick, Louis V. Friedland, Louis Cohen, Anna Gupp, Myra Mitchell, Lottie Perloff, Jackson Martin, Shirley Browning, Eric Milak, Paul Kravitz, Carol Campbell, Tilly Reddish, Molly Cohen, Malvern Cooper, Louis Kahn, Morris Sheridan, Ben Lubell, Scott Steiner. Are there any other names to mention this evening? Any other names? And perhaps those at home have a name to share as well. Those inclined to rise are invited to rise after Kaddish on page number 58. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba. Amen. Ve'olma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute b'chaye chon u'vyomechon u'b'chaye dechol beit Yisrael Ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'yimeru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach la'olam u'lomei ol mayach. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei d'kudusha, urichu, ve'ela, min kol, birchata, v'shirata, tushbechata, v'nechemata, da'ami ran ba'olma, v'yimeru. Amen. Yehei, Shlama, Rabba, Min Shemaya, Bechayim, Oleinu, Yal Kol Yisrael, V'imeru. Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimramav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Oleinu, Yal Kol Yisrael, V'imeru. Amen. We hear the Kaddish over and over again, and our ears take hold of the sounds. Yit Gadol, Yit Kadash, Yit Barach, Yishtabach, Yit Par, Yit Ramam, Yit Nasa, Yit Hadar, Yit Aleti Al, That prefix, yeet, 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 is indicative in Hebrew and Aramaic of what you and I might call ongoing, continuous action. And the words are speaking about praises of God. But I'm thinking of ongoing, continuous speaking of prayer within the context of a community by people who have lost somebody they love. So what does that do to us? That we listen to that ongoing word of people who've lost somebody they love. To the speaker, it means I need to be heard. To the listeners, it means we need to listen. And we take hold of that ongoing message to listen to those who are mourning and grieving, to hear them, to offer support. But we all say amen. We'll conclude in just a few moments and say, first, we have some friends. It's a pleasure to have our friends Rabbi Scott and Irene and Dr. Kramer joining us. And thank you for joining us. It's exciting to have you here. And it's good to have Larry and Ricky back, home or back, as the case may be. And it's always an absolute ta'anug, a pleasure and delight to have you here on the bima, lifting us up in voice and song. And afterwards, we'll make Kiddush and Hamotzi, and we'll nosh a little bit. A reminder to those who are joining us from home, we are now, as you know, back in the synagogue, socially distant. And if you are vaccinated, you are certainly welcome to come in. Masks are optional. We know that the rates are going up a little bit, so if people are comfortable wearing a mask, even the vaccinated are welcome to join in. But we do want people back in the building. Tomorrow morning, Shabbat morning davening. As you know, tomorrow evening, Alabama Community Virtual Havdalah on Zoom at 8 p.m. And Sunday morning, the MHF has its ongoing Summer Film Festival, and the film is at 2 o'clock here at the synagogue, and a Mediterranean nosh will be served along with, or just after the meal of the film, I should say. And if you want to understand why, you've got to come to the film, and that's Sunday at 2. Monday, Tanakh is on Zoom at noon. Tuesday, Adult Hebrew is on YouTube. Tuesday, Spirit is on Zoom. I'm going to stop, and we'll conclude not with something in the Siddur, but again, we're just super excited about having Yehuda here. And Yehuda, why don't you explain how we're going to conclude this evening?
So I'm going to use a couple of words that I used in a text message to the rabbi, a sinfully underrated band from the 1970s called Uriah Heep. And what tickles me about this song is this is not a song that, despite the message being so uplifting and so profound, despite that, this is a song that would not fly in Christian circles. It is called The Wizard. And in Christianity, they take a different view of like a wizard, as opposed, we'll look at it as like, it's a mythical folklore type of a thing. They look at it as something completely different. So sometimes what's cool for us is not okay for them. Was a wizard of 1,000 kings, and a chance to meet him one night wandering. He told me tales, and he drank my wine. Me and my magic man kind of feeling fine. He wore a cloak of gold and eyes of fire, and as he spoke unveiling his desire to free the world of its fear and pain,
help the people to feel free again. Why don't we listen to the voices in our hearts? 'Cause then I know we're not so far apart. Everybody's got to be happy, everyone should see. For we know the joys of life, the peace and love can bring. So spoke the wizard in his mountain home. The visions of his wisdom means we'll never be alone. And I would dream my magic night, as a million silver stars will guide me with their light.
Good Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. We'll make Kiddush in the adjoining room in just a minute. Shkoya. Thank you very much, Yehuda. And to those joining in at home, we wish you all the best. May God watch over you. May you know that you're important to us.